Have you ever felt like dreams are trying to tell you something? Like there's a bigger purpose out there for you? Today, we're diving into a powerful story about someone who believed in his dreams, even when the odds were stacked against him. This is the story of Joseph, a young man whose life is a living testimony of resilience, faith, and divine purpose. Let's begin in Canaan, where Joseph's journey starts. Joseph was the son of Jacob, one of 12 brothers, and let's just say he wasn't exactly popular among his siblings. Why? Well, Jacob loved him more than the others, so much so that he gave Joseph a unique, brightly colored coat, something that stood out like a beacon of favoritism. Imagine being one of the brothers, watching Joseph walk by in that technicolor robe. Resentment was bound to brew. But there's more to Joseph than just a fancy coat. Joseph had something special. Dreams. Not just any dreams, though. These were vivid, almost prophetic visions about his future. In one dream, Joseph saw sheaves of grain bowing down to his sheaf. In another, the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. And Joseph, in his youthful naivety, decided to share these dreams with his brothers. Not exactly the wisest move. His brothers? They weren't thrilled. They saw it as arrogance, claiming he would rule over them. Their resentment turned to hatred, and one fateful day, while tending their flock far from home, they saw an opportunity to get rid of him. They stripped him of his colorful coat and threw him into an empty well. Imagine the fear and heartbreak Joseph had to feel. But that wasn't the end of his ordeal. Instead of leaving him to die, the brothers sold him to a caravan of Ishmaelite traders heading to Egypt just for 20 pieces of silver, a mere price for a life. Let's pause for a second. Betrayed by his own flesh and blood, enslaved, and carted off to a foreign land, how many of us would lose all hope in such a moment? But Joseph? He didn't let despair define him. Instead, he chose faith. Now, fast forward to Egypt. Joseph was sold to Potiphar, an official of Pharaoh. There, despite being a slave, Joseph made a name for himself. Why? Because he had integrity, and God was with him. Potiphar saw that, and soon Joseph was entrusted with everything in his household. But life in Egypt wasn't smooth sailing for Joseph. Potiphar's wife had her eye on him and tried to seduce him, numerous times. Joseph, being the upright man he was, refused her advances. This wasn't without consequence. Feeling rejected, Potiphar's wife accused Joseph of trying to assault her. The result? Joseph was thrown into prison. Another blow, another setback. But even behind bars, Joseph didn't let the walls close in on his faith. While in prison, Joseph's gift for interpreting dreams shined again. He interpreted the dreams of 2 of Pharaoh's servants who were imprisoned with him, the butler and the baker. Joseph accurately predicted what would happen to them. The butler was restored to his position, and the baker was executed. Joseph asked the butler to remember him when he returned to Pharaoh's palace, but guess what? The butler forgot all about him for 2 long years. Imagine waiting, stuck in a cell, forgotten by someone you helped. Yet Joseph waited faithfully. And then Pharaoh himself had troubling dreams, visions of 7 skinny cows devouring 7 fat cows, and 7 withered heads of grain swallowing up 7 healthy ones. None of Pharaoh's wise men or magicians could interpret the dreams. That's when the butler remembered Joseph. Joseph was summoned from the prison to the palace. He listened to Pharaoh's dreams and explained that they were a message from God, a warning. Egypt would experience 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of severe famine. Joseph didn't just stop at interpreting the dreams, he proposed a plan. Store up surplus grain during the good years to prepare for the famine. Pharaoh was impressed, not just by the interpretation, but also by Joseph's wisdom. He didn't just free Joseph, he made him second in command of Egypt, essentially the prime minister. From a pit in Canaan to the palace in Egypt, Joseph's journey wasn't just about dreams. It was about trusting God's plan, even when life made no sense. And here's the kicker. Joseph's story wasn't over. When the famine struck, Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt to buy grain, not knowing they'd come face to face with their long-lost brother. Joseph could have sought revenge, but instead he chose forgiveness. In one of the most emotional reunions in the Bible, Joseph revealed his identity to his brothers and told them, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." So why is Joseph's story so powerful? Because it shows us that setbacks are setups for comebacks. It reminds us that no matter what life throws at us, betrayal, hardship, or loss, God has a bigger plan. Joseph's life was like a mosaic. Up close, it looked like chaos, but when you step back, you see something beautiful. And isn't that the essence of faith? Trusting in the unseen, believing that every piece of the puzzle has its place, and knowing that in the end, it all comes together for a purpose. So, what about you? Are you holding on to your dreams, even when the odds seem impossible? Remember Joseph. His story isn't just a history lesson. It's a testament to the power of faith, resilience, and divine purpose. Don't give up. The God who turned Joseph's trials into triumph can do the same for you.